My next guest, Professor Liam Kennedy, who's director of the Clinton Institute at University College Dublin, and I know has been watching this election very, very closely. Good morning to you, Professor.
Good morning.
Good
Good to be with
morning.
you.
Good. I'd love you to speak to you. I mean, this is the big concern, and this has been a concern from American watchers for a number of years that Donald Trump would not respect the outcome of an election. He was talking about fraud in postal ballots. He's been talking about that for months. He's been making jokes. One hopes they are jokes about how he would go for more terms in office, and how he's praised these strongmen leaders around the world for not holding legitimate elections. Big concerns about that. If it is the case that Donald Trump, as many people expect, has lost this election, despite putting on an extra 3 million votes, but losing the popular vote and losing Electoral College, are you 100% convinced that he will leave power?
100%. No, 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 no. I was 100% convinced, and I've been saying, and many people have been saying, not just myself, that he would contest the election if it looked like he was going to lose. And he has been aware, and his team have been aware, that there was a good chance he would lose. They've been aware of it for a long time. Trump sort of began to lay the ground, as it were, for this contestation in several ways. First of all, he starts talking up election fraud. Now, he was doing that for even in 2016. But he quietened on that. But about a year ago, he started again. And so we've had about 12 months, and especially since the pandemic, when his numbers began to fall, he has been screaming about electoral fraud in the United States. Without getting into the boring detail, I can tell you historically and today, and especially in recent years, electoral fraud in the United States is infinitesimal. It's almost non-existent. However, Trump has managed to turn it into a huge issue by shouting about it for 12 months. Electoral suppression, that's very real if you want to talk about it, but Trump never talks about that. So he's been preparing for this contestation that you're now talking about. So, of course, I'm not surprised about that, 100% on that one. Where this will go is much more difficult to tell. There are lots of scenarios. The simplest point is that if Biden wins by a large enough a margin today, I think it makes it a lot harder for Trump. If it comes down to one state, it's possible, the likeliest would be Pennsylvania, then Trump may have more leverage to fight over that one state. There's a lot more legal detail there, but that's probably the simplest bottom line as we watch results coming in today.
But again, then we're into that ridiculous situation, aren't we, where Donald Trump won by very small amount, just few tens of thousands of votes in key states back in 2016. He didn't query that then. He has yet, despite all these tweets and despite the statements of his son and his legal advisor Rudy Giuliani arriving to try and halt vote counts, they've not actually produced a single bit of evidence yet, have they? And yet you can see all over Twitter in particular now, whether or not it's bots or whether it's not as real people, Trump fans, saying, look, the evidence is really clear. But I've yet to see any single piece of evidence other than one thing which showed that a bunch of a few 100,000 votes were given to Biden, and not a single one in a tranche of votes that came through in one state. But it was quite clear to me that what was done was they'd counted the votes for each candidate separately, and those votes were ready first, and they put those on the vote count, and they were going to put the Trump votes on straight away afterwards. But that has been, as far as I can tell, the only evidence that anyone has offered, and that's not evidence at all.
That's not evidence at all. The evidence isn't there. There is no there, as Americans sometimes like to say. I said earlier that voter fraud was almost infinitesimal in the United States. In fact, there are some stats in this. And Trump, as I say, has been claiming voter fraud is rampant and so on. But the instances are very rare. Overall, we know that in the last 10 years, voter fraud has accounted for 0.00004% of the vote, according to the Brennan Center for Justice. Now, there are some who would contest that and say it may be closer to 0.5, but it's infinitesimal. Now, there is an issue, though, and let's be serious about this, which is that because of the huge number of mail-in ballots, there is the potential for voter fraud on a slightly larger scale. However, as you have just observed, so far, no evidence. I think it's very telling that, of course, the Twitter sphere is going to go crazy around this. That's inevitable, right? I mean, Trump's been on Twitter, as you know, saying he claims all of these states, and that's as if that's sufficient. But watch Fox News, which of course has been the mothership of the conservative media sphere in the United States. Fox News has not backed up these ideas of evidence. It's huffed and puffed a good deal, but it has not produced it either, and in fact has been remarkably careful, which has enraged the president.
And indeed, they've actually been sometimes the first to call a state for Joe Biden, much to his horror. But that leads me to my next question, actually, which is that how much backing do you think there will be from the likes of Fox News, from the Republican Party and the old school there, who look they didn't like Donald Trump, they didn't want him to be the candidate. He won the candidacy against their best efforts, but once he was in the White House, frankly, they were happy to play along. I mean, he was winning them votes in midterms and the like. They were happy to keep him on board. But now they think, look, he's lost. They don't think he's going to win, even in a legal battle. Are they going to back him up, or do you think that they will just hang him out to dry and they will accept openly and early that Joe Biden is the victor, if that is the case?
They will back him up until they don't. And I think that will come soon enough. This is cutthroat stuff. Yes, the Republican Party has rode in beside Donald Trump over the last 4 years. They did it partly out of fear. He rules them by fear. That is to say that he threatens that if they don't give him his support, he will, set his base upon them, and they will likely suffer in their local elections and so on. So he has ruled them in that way. Those who disagreed with him have more or less gone or left. There's hardly anyone left in that regard. It's not to say that they agree with him. It's not to say that they love and admire him. There are a few passionate ones, like Tom Cotton, for example, senator. But most of them are in it for what they can get for their party. The best example of this is Mitch McConnell, who I suspect has no love for Donald Trump, but has made a deal with the devil. What O'Connell has sought to do, and in fact what the Republican Party has been doing for the last 4 years under Donald Trump, is trying to tighten up their hold on power, by which I mean minority control of the United States. And that is what they're really seeking to do. Yeah. So McConnell's outlook on taking Trump on board was, okay, help us to pack the courts with justices. And if we get lucky, let's do the same in the Supreme Court. They got very lucky under Trump in that regard. So they are trying to maintain rule in the United States, given that the popular vote in the United States does not support them. I mean, even the Senate is out of sync. If you look at the votes for the Senate, I mean, it's deeply misrepresentative. The number of Republican senators are there. That has a lot to do with gerrymandering and many other things as well. But what I'm saying is the design of the Republican Party is to maintain minority power. Yeah. They see Trump as helping to do that. Yeah. If Trump can no longer help them do that, then he's not needed. However,
he'll be dropped.
If Trump goes, it's very unclear where the Republican Party goes. It will implode, I think, for the next year. It will be internecine warfare within that party to see where it goes after that, because if it moves to the center, it leaves this huge Trump vote on the right wing, which is going to have to go somewhere.
And again, let's remember Donald Trump's vote has gone up by 3 million. I could talk with you all morning. We'll get you on again very soon, I hope. Professor Liam Kennedy, Director of the Clinton Institute at University College Dublin, thank you very much indeed.